This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it by subscribing to the WWE Network for only $9.99 a month. It's amazing to me how much a different atmosphere can change your perception about a show. As I was watching Impact this week, there were a couple times when I said to myself, you know, if this was happening at the Impact Zone at Universal Studios, it might have fallen really flat. But in the Manhattan Center with this awesome crowd, somehow it works. And that's how I ended up liking certain things that happened here, despite going in kind of ready to feel another way about them. Like this Monsters Ball match, for example. Remember when this gimmick really meant something? Remember when TNA made a big deal out of it when it happened? It seems like they have these things every couple weeks now. If time was, I'd get excited about this match. Now I hear the words Monsters Ball and I'm like, whatever. And they barely hyped this thing up at all. I think a short backstage promo from Abyss last week was the only thing they did to get the word out about it. So, unless you were paying really close attention, you might not have even known about this match. And then they put it out there in the curtain jerker spot with no fanfare, no promos, no nothing. Not to mention it was one of 2 hardcore gimmick matches we had this week. So there were a lot of things going on with this match that made me predisposed to not give a shit. And yet, somehow, I got into it. The crowd was crazy, the booking was good, and the match was good. There were some brutal spots with the thumbtack bump and Abyss going through the barbed wire board, even though that's nothing we haven't seen before many times now. TNA are doing great with Bram. I loved how, even though there was interference, it was very minimal and it didn't stop Bram from going over strong and looking strong afterward. So even though I didn't expect to like this, I did. That does not excuse the oversaturation of these damn gimmick matches, though.
Oh, you were not aware of this?
An even harder sell was the big multi-man let's kiss ECW's ass for a cheap pop match, which I could have sworn they said was going to be an 8-man tag last week. But then they call it a hardcore war, whatever that's supposed to mean, and then they have basically a no DQ gauntlet match. What the hell is going on here? It seemed like even TNA had no idea what the match was until it started. Like they were making this stuff up as they went along.
This is unbelievable. This doesn't make any sense.
The match was chaotic, which ordinarily I really don't like. But there were some really stiff shots and some surprisingly enjoyable spots here. Bully Ray doing a flying crossbody, for God's sake. I even liked Al Snow coming out, shockingly enough. You wouldn't think so, but I know that was just a one-time thing, and he actually did perform well, even hitting a moonsault to the outside. Wow. And again, the atmosphere sold it, with everyone in the crowd holding up the heads and just going nuts for this shit. The Impact Zone crowd would have been sitting on their hands, but the New York fans made this environment so much fun that even though I wasn't really digging it at first, I just couldn't stop myself from getting into it by the end. Nevertheless, I still just don't like the practice of booking more than one of these types of matches on the same TV show, because then neither one of them stands out as much as they should, and you really can't devote the proper time and focus and build-up and fanfare and attention to both of them. The Monsters Ball was the victim in this case. I understand TNA trying to go balls to the wall while they renegotiate their TV deal, but I'm just getting really burned out on all the gimmicks. Hardcore Justice is the time to load up on hardcore gimmick matches, but on a random Impact, doing so many of these so often just gets really tiresome to me. There were 2 things on this show that I just could not get into for the life of me. Unsurprisingly, the first one involved the Bromance.
You guys suck.
By now, it's very well established that the Bromance are the biggest losers on this roster and only seem to ever win matches when the other team needs to lose to facilitate an unrelated storyline of some kind. Well, if this particular storyline needed to have Anderson completely humiliated, jobbing him out to a no-talent schmuck like Robbie E., That would do it.
This alleged superstar is an unworthy opponent.
Oh my god, poor Anderson. This has got to be a new low for him. Man, is that guy's career falling off a cliff. You couldn't at least take some of the poison out of this by having Zema Ion get the pin instead? Jesus Christ.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be feeling with this storyline right now. Anderson is being a dick to Shaw, albeit for pretty justifiable reasons, but Shaw does seem to be genuinely trying to change and be a better person. So, is this an Anderson heel turn? Are we meant to sympathize with Shaw or be distrustful of him until he relapses? I don't know. Either way, this storyline isn't really grabbing me so far. You know, I'm trying so hard to find something worthwhile about this Knockouts title feud right now, but I just can't. The beautiful people start talking about how Angelina wants a title shot at Gail, and immediately I tune out.
Shut the hell up!
Hey, Angelina, you want a rematch for the title? How about you try doing something interesting first? So then Gail and Taryn come out, and they make a fatal four-way for the title next week, and I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about Gail versus the beautiful people anymore. I don't want the beautiful people anywhere near the title anymore. I'm bored with these two, just like a lot of other people are. And I don't want to see this match because I know it's just going to be a lot of pointless stalling so they can kill more time until Gail Taryn 3 happens when I think most people just want to see it now. TNA, like I said before, you just don't have a deep enough women's roster to delay that match in any kind of compelling way because right now Gail and Taryn is the only compelling women's matchup you can make.
Oh, my brother! Testify!
So they'll have a four-way next week, and then Angelina will probably get a title match, and then I'm sure something else will happen after that to drag this out even more before Gail and Taryn go at it finally. For the love of God, can we please shake this division up already? That 20-second Jessica Havoc promo was 10 times more interesting than anything that happened in this segment. I really enjoyed this promo with Team MVP and Bobby Roode. I love the dynamic here with Roode as the take-no-shit badass face and Lashley the credible destroyer heel. Something TNA have been getting a lot better at recently is hyping up big main event caliber matches like this, and this feels like a really big match. Probably the biggest match they could make with Lashley right now. I'm excited about it. I think it makes a lot of sense to do it. However, I think it makes more sense to save it for Bound for Glory. If it's happening sooner than that, then I don't know what they're going to do for a main event in October because right now Roode Lashley seems like far and away the best option. Holy moly, the X Division title match was also the main event match. I can't even remember the last time that happened. We had Sonata, Samoa Joe, and Low Ki here. The match was really good. I'm fine with Joe winning. I thought maybe you'd want to put Low Ki over, but having him chase the title would be cool too. And generally, I'm pretty happy with the action we've been getting from the X Division lately. What it's lacking right now is some good storylines to make those matches mean more. But the real issue we have to concern ourselves with is, now that the Destination X hoopla is finished, will this renewed attention given to the X Division stick this time, or will it just fade into the background for another year again?
Well, I guess that just depends.
I have to give Dixie Carter props. I never thought she would go through with it, but by God, she did. Big respect points, lady. So after, I think about 4 months of build-up, they finally went through with this and had Bully Ray put Dixie Carter through a table. Wow. And with all that time and effort behind it, we have to ask ourselves, how did this come off? Was it effective? Was it really worth it? Well, I thought the staging of this angle was actually really bad. Bully Ray is going on and on about how tonight it happens. Tonight is the night I finally put you through a table come hell or high water. Dixie is crapping herself over this. And my question is, if this guy is threatening you with physical violence and you're so terrified of what he's going to do, why are you sticking around? Why don't you try I don't know, hiding from him? Or why don't you just do the smart thing and leave the arena? The fact that this was never even addressed as a possibility is a huge glaring omission here. Plot hole! And it doesn't stop there. Because then, instead of doing the smart thing, for some reason, Dixie decides to do the stupidest thing she possibly can. She goes out to the ring, putting herself front and center, drawing all this attention on herself, making it really easy for Bully to find her. She chooses that exact moment to tell her hired muscle to hit the bricks when any idiot could see she was going to need them. And then she acts surprised when this blows up in her face? Well, what the hell did she think was going to happen? I mean, come on, TNA writers, could you seriously not think of a less contrived way to do this? I'm sorry, but it is a big pet peeve of mine when characters in any medium do stupid things just to advance the plot. To a large extent, that's exactly what happened here, and it actually came close to ruining this whole thing for me. But the execution of the moment itself saved it. This part was outstanding. The heels try to hightail it, but the entire roster comes out to stop them, showing just how detested the Dixie Carter character is, what a hugely important moment this is, and putting over Bully Ray as a hero for doing this, which I think was important to spell out to the audience. It might not have come off that way to casual viewers because this was, after all, a very big man putting a much smaller woman through a table, which in itself is a pretty damn heelish thing to do. The table spot was great. Bully basically put himself through the table and Dixie barely touched it, but we had to expect that. The anticipation was awesome, the pop for it was massive, and even though I thought the way they got Dixie into that position was really dumb, the moment still worked. The end result was the New York fans going absolutely ballistic and finally, like they really meant it, chanting TNA instead of ECW. And because of that, I think you have to call this a big success. And if that's how they're writing the Dixie Carter character off TV, she went out with a bang, that's for damn sure. Yes! Another terrific Impact this week. This company seems to be really finding their groove lately. The shows have been a lot of fun, the matches and booking have been much improved, the viewership has been increasing. It's starting to feel like TNA again, like they're finally figuring themselves out. They just need that new TV deal to happen now. Until next time, later.